Hello, Lawrence Grayson back again for shortformvideo.com with another After Effects tutorial for you to get your teeth into. Now, if you've already seen the preview, you'll have a pretty good idea of what's coming up, but for those of you who haven't, here's what I'll be showing you how to do today. Now, if you watch the YouTube preview at the 360p preset, you'll probably have missed out a lot of the details because it doesn't really do it justice at that level of compression. So I'll just run through the effects that will be covered here. Essentially what I'll be showing you is how to create this deep underwater look with light rays coming down, bubbles running up, and a nice vignette on it. And what you may not be able to see all that clearly is the animated texture we've got in the background, just to give it that slightly cloudy look. And in the second part of the tutorial, because I don't think I'll be able to fit it all into one, I'll be showing you how to create a lens blur effect with a depth matte, which is what we've used to create this gradual blurring effect on the text as it pans from right to left. And also, although you can't see it all that clearly, that's why these bubbles, even though they're in a 2D layer, are sharp in this area and then quite out of focus on that area. Now, as always, I won't be using any third-party plugins here, not even Trapcode Particular for these rising particles. So you can do this with CS3, CS4 or CS5. And as always, I'll be posting the project file for this on my website at shortformvideo.com for free. So if you haven't done it already, go there, sign up and download it. Okay, so that's enough chat, let's get started. First thing to do, create yourself a new composition using the settings that you want this to be. Now I'll give you a warning in advance, the lens blur effect is actually really processor intensive. So I'll be sticking to the PAL widescreen square pixel preset. The project file I'll be uploading is actually in the 720p preset, but like I say, if you're running the lens blur effect, particularly on two layers as we will be here, be prepared for some fairly extensive rendering times. So we'll call this Deep Thought, and leave it at the default duration that I have of 10 seconds and hit OK. Once you've done that, create a new solid and we'll call this our deep blue background. Doesn't really matter what color you make it because we'll be adding a color effect to it. Now those of you that have watched my previous tutorials, you'll know that one of my favorite effects is actually the 4-color gradient. So go to your effects and presets panel, type in 4-color, drag the 4-color gradient effect and drop it onto your background solid, and it'll create these rather garish default colors. So next step is to go to your effects controls panel, and in color 1 we're going to pick a nice cool looking teal color, and I'll just use the eyedropper to match up all the colors so that when I hit the color button I can play with them in the same tonal range. Now you don't have to do this, you can maybe make some of them a little bit bluer, a little bit greener, depending on the effect that you want to create. It's entirely up to you. And I'm also going to create a point of brightness towards the top. Maybe make that one just a little bit darker. And I'll increase the blend to about 150, just to soften it all off. So once you've done that, you've got your base color for your motion graphic. The next step is to create the rising bubbles. Now you may make the mistake of assuming I'm going to go straight for the CC bubbles effect, but that's really not what I'm after. While it's a handy effect in some circumstances, as you can see, it's really not that subtle and certainly not what I'm after. So I'll just undo that. No, the effect I'm going to use is the CC Snow effect. Now I used this in a previous tutorial to create some rising particles, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So apply the CC Snow effect to your deep blue background solid, and then we'll go to our effect controls panel just to make a few tweaks. I'm going to take the amount down to 30, but obviously the number of particles that you want to include is entirely up to you. And I'm going to drop the speed down to -0.2. And by turning into a negative value, it essentially reverses the direction. So rather than snowflakes falling down, we now have bubbles rising upwards. Now if you want to stop them from wobbling as much as they do here, all you need to do is drop the amplitude value down to 1. And they'll still wobble, they just won't do it so fast. Okay, so that's step 2 out of the way. Step 3 is to create the sunlight rays coming down from the top, and that's actually a lot easier than you might think. So right click and create a new solid. We'll call this light rays. Set it to white, make sure it's the composition size, and hit OK. Go back to your Effects and Presets panel and find the ever faithful fractal noise effect, and drag that onto your light rays solid. And it'll give you the default. But instead of using the default, we're actually going to use an animation preset just to save a little bit of time. So go to the fractal noise animation presets in your Effect Controls panel and select the curtain preset. And that will give you this nice simple curtain preset, just like the name suggests. And what we're going to do here is just animate it by using the evolution settings. Now if you look at the evolution settings, you'll find that there's a 5-second animation built into this preset by default, and it gives us this effect. So all I'm going to do is just drag the keyframes to the beginning and the end of our 10-second project. And I'll just change the end keyframe to a value of 2 revolutions rather than just the 1, because we'd like it to move a little bit faster across the 10-second period. Now before we move on, we need to pre-compose the light rays layer, so hit Ctrl Shift and C. And I'll just rename it Light Rays Pre-Comp. Make sure the Move All Attributes into the New Composition button is checked, and hit OK. Now that we've done that, we can apply all manner of effects to the pre-composition without actually breaking the fractal noise effect that we've already applied. And the effect that I'm looking for in particular is the corner pin. So go to your Effects and Presets panel, find your corner pin effect, and drag that onto your pre-comp. I'm just going to scroll out with the mouse wheel so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Now often corner pinning is used to match objects onto planes in your motion graphic. Here I'm just going to be using it as a simple distortion mesh. And to do that, I'm just going to drag the position markers for each corner just to create this angled curtain. So that's about the effect that I want. If I scrub through it, you can see where we're going with this. Now to blend that into the watercolor beneath it, you just right click on the pre-comp, go to blending mode and select soft light. And that very simply blends the white and black values into the colors underneath. But it's a little bit on the harsh side, so just want to tweak that a little bit. Very simply, make sure the pre-comp layer is selected, hit T to bring up the opacity, and we'll just drop it down to probably about 30%. And it's looking a little bit better. Now obviously it's not perfect. You may want to go back into your fractal noise pre-comp and tweak the settings a little bit just to soften it off, or maybe add a fast blur. One of the things I like to do is just add a quick elliptical mask. So go to your ellipse tool, and with the pre-comp layer selected, just going to create an ellipse over the top. Twirl down the mask values and set the feather to about 150 pixels. And then you can play around with the expansion values just to soften off the edges. I'm just going to lift that path up a little bit. And by softening it off, it makes it look a lot more effective. Okay, next step is to create some of that texture I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So right click, create another new solid. We'll call it texture, leave it at white and hit OK. Go back to your Effects and Presets panel and once again find the fractal noise effect. Drag it onto your texture layer. Right click the texture layer, select blending mode and color dodge. Now obviously that effect is a little bit extreme, so I'm just going to go back into the fractal noise effects and we'll trim it just by dropping the brightness values down and maybe the contrast values down as well. And also hit T to bring up opacity, and we'll trim the opacity a bit, maybe just down to about 50%. And as you can see, it creates a nice subtle texture layer which makes it look a little bit more like ocean water. Now again, if you want to animate this, you go to your evolution settings, make sure the timeline indicator is at the bottom because this one doesn't come with any preset evolution animation. Check the stopwatch to create a keyframe at the beginning of the timeline. Hit the end key to take your timeline indicator to the end of your project, and we'll just type in 1 to give it a rotation value of 360 degrees. Now it's a little bit subtle, but if I solo that, you can see that it's just creating that nice subtle shift between light and dark. Again, you can probably improve on this with your own bit of experimentation, but that'll do just fine for now. Okay, so we're nearly there. One more step before I close this down and move on to part 2, and that's to create a nice simple vignette. So you probably already know how to do this by now, particularly if you've watched previous tutorials. So we're going to right click, create a new solid, make sure it's black, just call it vignette, and hit OK. Grab the ellipse tool. I'm going to create an off-center ellipse. Go to the mask properties, change it from add to subtract. Feather it to about 250 pixels. And then play around with the expansion just to give it the size and coverage that you want. And then we'll just drop the opacity down to about 55%. And I'll just render that out and we'll take a look. Okay, so that's the render finished. It's looking pretty cool. We've got our light rays, our texture, our particles, and our vignette. So if you'd like to find out how to use depth matte and the lens blur effect to finish this project off, keep an eye open for the second part coming soon. Once again, when this is all finished, I'll be posting the final project file for this on my website, shortformvideo.com. So by all means go there and grab it when it's ready. As always, I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.